Today's podcast is brought to you by Quantrix Modeler Introductory Training, teaching the fundamental foundation that you need to become a Quantrix master. Go to quantrixauthority.com to learn more.
Show me how you do Quantrix.
Hey, welcome back to another Netcast. I'm Rich Lopez, Quantrix Authority. Sincerely appreciate you joining me today for episode number 204, Weeks in Timeline Display Options. This is in response to a question that I received at quantrixauthority@gmail.com from Jack, and I appreciate the fact that he reached out to me because I'm going to try to make him a Quantrix master by answering his questions. He wants to know what are the various ways that you can display timelines within Quantrix, because what he's running up against is he has a couple matrices here, and what he wants to do is he wants to show in this matrix those weeks that are only valid. He doesn't want to show 5 weeks if the fifth week is not valid. But the way that timeline is set up, when you configure it, you can't have February just be 4 weeks and then January be 5 weeks, and etc., etc. You have to have the same number of items under each one of the other items. Okay, so how do you get it so it appears correctly? And what Jack's done is he's gone ahead and he's hidden or collapsed manually all of those weeks that aren't valid. I got to hand it to him for having such perseverance to do such a ugly, manual, painful process. I would not do that. There are a couple workarounds, and I want to show one of them to you. Also, before I start showing you the way I would do things, Jack also had another way of doing it. He said, I'm just going to create a timeline of year, and then I'm going to create a category called week after I've created my category of year, and I'm going to simply insert these items of week 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in January. Then I'm going to add 6, 7, and 8, and 9 in February. And then if I want to add those, if I want to do a summary on those, then I'm going to take the first 5 weeks and I'm going to add a summary to them. I'm going to take the next 4 weeks and add a summary to them for February. Again, very manual. I don't think this at all leverages the power of timeline within Quantrix. So I would go against both of these. The way I would recommend you do it, Jack, is I've created a matrix up here, and maybe if you want to see your data in a 52-week kind of time period across years, I've gone ahead and I've just created year matrix, or a year category tile, and then an other that has 52 items within it for my weeks. And with that, I've added some some random numbers here to see, so that we could aggregate this over time. But then what I've added is I've added a date using my timeline date function. You see me use this, I'd say a fair amount on the Quantrix Authority. I like using this function a lot. And then what I could do is, if the sales information lived out in a two-dimensional data set or something, I could use a select function and pull it in with the appropriate week with this as my lookup. Okay, and if you have questions about that, Jack, and how I do that, I'd be more than happy to show that to you in a different video. Just let me know, or any of my community out there, what I mean when I'm with what I just said. But generally, also, this shows it to me by week, but what if I wanted to aggregate it by month? How would I then go ahead and do that? So the beauty about timelines is that once I've created it in maybe this form, it's a very granular form, I can roll it up, or I can summarize it into another methodology or another form that's maybe a step above, or has even a few more details. So for example, let's say I wanted to aggregate now this data that's up here by year, by month, and even by week. And of course, I want to collapse those weeks that are not valid. I want them to be ignored. Well, how would I do that? Well, I'd go ahead and I'd create a timeline that has year, month, and then it has weeks in it. And then I would rename this F1 to sales. And my first thing I would do is I would go ahead and I would populate this date column, timeline date. And when I do that, you can see that this is not a valid week for week 5 of January, because I'm hashtag bounds right here. The same with February. March is a valid week for week 5. So what I would do is I would want to collapse these, and I'll show that to you in just a second how I would do that. But I want to take the aggregate now of this sales data and roll it up at a weekly level by month. And again, how you do this is pretty darn straightforward in the fact that I would simply say sales is equal to the sum of select. What do I want to bring back? I want to bring back the sales from matrix 1, and I want to go across all of the weeks, so I'd say other sales like that. And what is my key list? Well, it's date, and again I want to go across all of the weeks or all of the others up there. And what is my lookup value? It is date. I'm going to close that. When I do that, you'll see that I have 4.63, which corresponds to week 1, 5.69, which corresponds to week 2. But when I get out here into week 8, which should be, February week 4, I see 7.42, 7.42. And again, that's because this date here matches this date here. That's how I'm able to look it up and therefore aggregate it by month. Now, you'll say, well, I don't want to see week 5. I don't want to see that pound bound. So what I would do is I would simply write in here, clear error. Okay. And when I do that, and then I go to view and I hide my empty columns, you'll see that week 5 disappears for the weeks that it is not valid, but it shows up for the weeks where it is valid. So that's how I would do weeks, and that's exactly how I do weeks within Quantrix Modeler when I'm using timeline. I think it's very powerful, and I think it's pretty straightforward and easy once you kind of get the knack of it. I do recall when I was starting out having some problems understanding how this worked, but over time it becomes second nature to you, and you begin to love it. What can I say? So again, the beauty of this, I can bring month up here, I can also bring other up here, and I can select what week I want to look at, by month. If you have any other questions about Quantrix, reach out to me, and I want to make you a Quantrix master. So please join me again for another episode of Quantrix Authority with Rich Lopez.